Hey guys, here we go. I'm going to walk you through what Lectio Divina is and what this learning activity is going to entail. So, I hope you find this interesting. So very quickly, some background on Lectio Divina. So Lectio Divina is a Latin phrase that means sacred reading. And that is something that was initially used in monastic orders in the Christian faith in the ancient or Middle Ages. And certainly in recent times also. But we're going to use it in a slightly different way. I do want to state up front that we are not going to use Lectio Divina in any sort of religious way or context, but just simply use it as a tool to look very closely at a passage in the Tao Te Ching, because that's what Lectio Divina really does, is walks a person through, by using some steps, to engage with at a very sort of deep and symbolic level a passage in anything. I actually heard about Lectio Divina for the first time from a podcast called Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. If you look up Lectio Divina online, there will be, of course, lots of information. And we are going to use, it's usually a 4-step process. We're going to use a slightly modified process. What I want to do in this video here is to go through what the four steps of Lectio Divina, and then I'll actually do it with a text from the Tao Te Ching, so you kind of see what I'm looking for. You might ask, why are we sticking with the phrase or the title Lectio Divina, which means sacred reading, if we are not using it in a spiritual sort of way? Well, it's because Lectio Divina is Latin, and Latin sounds cool. So the way Lectio Divina works is you select a passage. I'm going to tell you how to do that in a second, and then you go through these 4 stages. So what you'll need to do with your book, with your Tao Te Ching, is very simply to flip through it without really looking, just kind of, maybe even you close your eyes so you don't know which is the front or the back, and you flip through it and you open it up, and the first sentence, or I guess in our case, since these are poems, maybe the first stanza that you see with your eyes, that is the text you're dealing with. So that's how you choose the text. And I would say, even with this particular book, there is a rather lengthy introduction that fills up maybe a fifth of the book. Even if you happen to land in the introduction, I would say use that sentence that you see in the introduction. So the 4 stages of Lectio Divina are: 1, literal or narrative, and I'll talk about each of these as I do it with the book itself. So the first stage is literal or narrative. You're very simply just saying what the sentence is saying. You're not drawing anything from it. You might look at the rest of the poem or maybe paragraph that you ended up in the introduction and talk about maybe what the context is and how the context might be important for that sentence. But really, we're just talking about this first one, just exactly as it is, right? It's literal narrative meaning. Stage 2 is allegory or symbolism. Right? So now we look at the passage at a deeper level. We look at it allegorically or symbolically. What words in that sentence might you be able to draw some sort of allegorical or symbolic meaning from? So we're going from the literal narrative to the next level, which is allegorical or symbolic, right? Third level is, now that you've gone through looking at it narratively and symbolically, the third level is reflective. So, in other words, how does this text speak to you? How does it speak to you today, in the time and place in which you are at, right? And then 4, the invitation, all right? So the invitation is this last piece. I guess it could be called application, but it's an invitation, right? So we're going to honor the text and the work of the author, and we're going to honor the work that you've done with this particular sentence, with this particular text, and you're going to ask yourself, what action am I going to take as a result of me reflecting and engaging with this text. So as you'll see in the instructions that are in Canvas, the written typed instructions that are in Canvas, I've asked you to make an audio recording of you doing Lectio Divina with a passage. Okay, here I go. I'm going to select my text. I'm going to close my eyes. I don't even know which way is up. Thus, an army without flexibility never wins a battle. A tree that is unbending is easily broken. Those are that's my stanza. It's actually 2 sentences. So literally what we're talking about here is an army. Now this is ancient China, and so men were conscripted into the army. Every male, you probably don't know this, world history teacher here, former world history teacher. In ancient China, depending on the dynasty, like service in the military was compulsory. So military, army, armed service, all that stuff. Many men and women, of course, because their men went off to war, would be familiar with this type of service. And of course there was lots of battle in the ancient world. Not always. I think sometimes we think the ancient world is just some sort of barbaric time where people just did nothing but fight with axes and swords, but it's not really the case. But in ancient China, certainly there were warring periods, and so, you know, this advice here is an army without flexibility never wins a battle. So Lao Tzu is saying that an army must be flexible. Flexible meaning, of course, that they're adaptable to change if necessary. Never wins a battle, and never, an important word there, right? That means never, in all cases, never wins a battle. And then the next sentence, I guess I kind of cheated. I'm doing 2 sentences, but it's within 1 stanza. A tree that is unbending is easily broken. You know, the other night we had a storm, and I watched the oleanders outside my office get whipped around like they were nothing. I mean, so, you know, a tree that is unbending is easily broken. So the oleanders outside my window, here we go, hang on. This is the view outside my window. You can see all my little dows and oh, my little teddy bear buddy. His name's Sarsaparilla. Long story. But you can see the oleanders outside my office window. Those big long limbs, they just, oh, here we go. Thank you, wow. That was awesome timing. So the wind just whipped those limbs all over the place, and because of the limb, we know this, right? We talk about the palm tree and everything, especially the hurricanes down here. You know, the more the more bending the tree is, the better it will survive. All right, let's do stage 2. Stage 2 is allegorical or symbolic. So, so an army. So what is symbolic and allegorical about an army? Well, an army destroys. An army protects. Symbolically, well, this is kind of hard. I guess the symbol of an army is one of power, perhaps one of violence. But also, again, like I said, an army protects, so it's also a type of defense, maybe even safety. So it's symbolic of safety. I think the allegory, the symbol out of these 2 sentences, this 1 stanza that I chose, the one that's much easier to use as a symbol is the tree, right? And so we obviously know a tree is a thing made of pulpy wood, and there's bark on the outside, and it has limbs and leaves and all that sort of stuff. But really what Lao Tzu is talking about here is the adaptability, right? A tree that is straight and tall and strong is strong in one way, but very weak in another. When, of course, strong winds come, that tree will be snapped in half. Whereas an oleander, say outside my office window, just bends with the wind and it's all fine. And so, obviously, it's symbolic of our lives, right? It's symbolic of how in our times, and we think with the Tao Te Ching, how in our time, when difficult times come, like, say, the difficult time we're in right now with the coronavirus, the more flexible we are with that, the easier it is for us to adjust and be more at peace. You know, say that perhaps we are very upset and distressed about the fact that we're stuck in our houses. We can either bend with that, or we can brace against it. And if we brace against the fact that we are stuck in our houses, if we look at it that way, something that's restricting us rather than an opportunity, then we will be broken by that, and thus unhappy. But if we're able to bend with that, right, like this is this is just what it is. We're all in our houses, right? If we're able to bend with that and accept it and see it as opportunity rather than a restriction, then we'll feel better about it. We'll have greater peace of mind. Hey, that actually ended up being kind of insightful. So now we move on to stage 3. Stage 3 is reflection. So, how does this text speak to me in my own life today? I guess how it reflects to me, one way at least, as the person who's in charge of AP and IB. And AP and IB have both made some decisions about how those exams are going to go forward or not go forward, and certainly they've been altered. And so my job has altered in a way that I did not expect. And certainly you guys, although I'm supposed to be applying this to me, things have changed for you guys in terms of your AP and IB exams as well. And so I've needed to be flexible with that. Sitting at home talking to a video camera is, not what I intended to do as a teacher, right? And so that has changed. Grading and conversing with you online has changed. I have to be flexible with that, right? And something is lost. I don't get to see you guys every day, and I miss that. But I think that our philosophical dialogue is less because of that, because we're just doing this in isolation now. But I also think it's created some opportunities for us to engage in a different way. For our students who maybe are a little less prone to speak up in class, maybe they feel like they have a greater voice by being able to participate in, say, discussion boards or just recording their audio and sending it to me or whatever. So in my life, I've needed to be flexible, obviously, certainly from an employment standpoint. I don't want this video to be like 30 minutes long, so I want to talk about how I've had to be flexible personally, but all is well. So that was stage 3, and the last stage is stage 4. The last stage is stage 4, which is invitation, and I really like this. An invitation, of course, is an opportunity for you to be a part of something, and so the invitation here is for me to ask myself and honor the work that Lao Tzu has done and honor the work that I have done just now by working and engaging with these texts very briefly. Like, what action am I going to take as a result of this? So, like I said, I've been forced, if you will, to be flexible, and I'm learning and growing in that. And I can only say that I guess my action is that I'll continue in doing that. I don't know about you, but I like to keep a journal. Not that I do it daily, maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times a week, and sort of talk about just what's going on, and my own personal journey and whatever's going through my mind and everything. And so maybe in the next week or two, in my journaling in the morning, I will. This will be my action. I will make a point to show or write about how I'm being flexible and how I'm adjusting and having that flexibility become a greater part of my life. Well, okay, that's the longest video I think I've made. I'm so sorry, like I really am sorry, but I hope you get a lot out of this. I hope you find Lectio Divina interesting. Come here, Mose. And I hope, here's the Mose. Oh, the Tao has arrived. It is the Mose. So I hope that you get something out of Lectio Divina and your engagement with the Tao Te Ching this week, and I look forward to your audio recordings. And I hope you guys stay safe. And I care about and love you, and I miss you guys. And Mose is so happy though to be a part of things now, and I'll see you guys later.